What's goody world? I'm back with the homie Nick. This is actually today's Monday. This is my second reaction to Nick today. The first reaction I did was the watermelon war. Story about Panama. Of course, I can't upload it today because of the 48-hour rule implemented by Nick himself. And he only posted that video 18 hours ago. But I went on ahead and reacted to it because I had to jump on that. I wanted to say that to let y'all know to just watch it to the end. I ended up calling my mom and my grandmother at the end of the video to see if they knew anything about it. So just make sure y'all watch that. But I wanted to upload something today from Nick as well. So I am at the Army built a new Jeep, the ISV. All right. Learn me something, Nick. Let's see what the hell going on, man.
According to General Eisenhower, the four weapons that helped America the most in winning World War II were the C-47, the bazooka, the atomic bomb.
I don't know why I'm out of focus. What's happening here? There we go. All right, let's rock.
And the War II were the C-47, the bazooka, the atomic bomb, and the Jeep.
Okay.
Today we're talking about the Army's new Jeep, the Infantry Squad Vehicle, aka the ISV. All right, here's the deal. This video is a little bit different than usual because I got the opportunity.
Yep, that's Nick. That's Nick right there. That's him.
All right, here's the deal. This video is a little bit different than usual because I got the opportunity to go out and do some unusual stuff. I got to go out to Fort Campbell with the 101st Airborne Division, and I got to see the ISV firsthand with my buddy Ethan, Mr. Habitual Line Crosser here on YouTube, and my buddy Zach, veteran with a sign.
You would not believe how many places there are to put crayons. There's so much room for activities.
We were filming an episode of our Pepperbox exclusive show called Habitually Fat, where me and Ethan go out and we tour military museums, historic sites, and we go out to military bases. If you want to go check that out after this, I'll have a link with a free trial down below. Anyways, going into this, I had some reservations. I've seen pictures of the ISV. I think it's really cool looking, but also I've got some reservations. Like, I don't know how fun it would be to roll into combat in a dune buggy with no doors, no windows, and no armor. So today, we're not just going to look at the ISV. We're going to look at the Jeep and the Humvee as well, so we can understand the historic precedent that has led us to the point that the Army is now procuring what amounts to warthogs from the Halo video game. And it's probably going to get pretty unhinged somewhere along the way. Regardless, we're going to get to it right after a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Element. Okay, we're not going to overcomplicate this. It's just a hydration packet, okay? You buy a box, it's got a bunch of sticks inside of it, you pour that inside of your water, and then next thing you know, your piss is clear. They've got a bunch.
Damn, this is the same ad from the Panama video, the watermelon war.
Bunch of different flavors. They've got citrus, watermelon, they've got a spicy one, they've got some chocolate ones that you can mix with hot water and it tastes like hot chocolate, but my favorite is the lemonade. Are there other hydration products on the market? Absolutely, but I like Element the most, so much so that I actually approached them to sponsor me because I've been using them forever. Why? Because there's no bullshit involved with it, okay? It's not like Gatorade or Liquid IV where it's got a bunch of sugar and artificial food dye and micronutrients and B vitamins and all that horse shit. No, I don't need any of that. When my fat ass is sweating, salt is sweaty, I'm losing salt, give me more fucking salt. And that's all Element is. It's salt, magnesium, and potassium. I'll even read the ingredient list for you. Salt, magnesium, potassium, natural lemon flavor, stevia extract, fucking the end. And the cool part about that is if you're doing some type of diet like keto or intermittent fasting where you're actually spending periods of time where you're fasting, you can drink this and it won't break your fast, and not a lot of products do that. Or if you're like me and you drink too much sometimes and you don't like being hungover, it's great for that too. Anyways, if you want to give the Element a try, you're gonna get a free sample pack whether you're a new customer or a returning customer when you use my link down below. That's drinklmnt.com/fatelectrician. Let's get back to the video. All right, 1941, World War II, Germany is occupying North Africa. Being so far away from Germany, they are heavily relying on airplanes for most of their logistical support to be able to move supplies and men around the country. Because of this, the British SAS, specifically Major Sterling and the legendary Paddy Mayne, who I may or may not be doing a video.
Boy, that's one hell of a unibrow, boy.
SAS, specifically Major Sterling and
boy, that thing caught a connecting flight, didn't it?
and the legendary Patty Main, who I may or may not be doing a video on soon, come up with the idea of attacking these German airfields, destroying their planes, thus crippling their logistics. And the first time they attempt to do this, they use the conventional knowledge of the time. They conduct an airborne operation. They drop 64 paratroopers right outside the airfield. The problem with that is, everybody knows the conventional knowledge and the conventional tactics, right? Those airfields are covered with anti-aircraft guns, and by the time those airplanes come, the troops jump out, they float to the ground, they get out, the Germans are ready, and they're there to defend, and it was a complete disaster. Out of the 64 men that conducted that raid, only 22 survived. It is at this point that Major Sterling realizes this isn't gonna work, we gotta do something different. They need to figure out a new strategy to be able to get inside of these airfields, hit them hard, fast, and be gone before they even know what happened. To do this, they turn to a new American invention, the Jeep, the first ever mass-produced four-wheel drive off-road vehicle. They cover it with machine guns and modify it to perform better in the... To do this, they turn to a new American invention, the Jeep, the first ever mass-produced four-wheel drive off-road vehicle. They cover it with machine...
I never knew that. I never knew that detail about the Jeep.
The Jeep, the first ever mass-produced four-wheel drive off-road vehicle. They cover it with machine guns and modify it to perform better in the desert. Then the tactic becomes driving quietly at night up to these airfields, identifying where they're at, parking the Jeeps, dismounting, going into the airfields, sneakily planting explosives on a bunch of the planes, going back to the Jeeps, detonating the bombs, and then taking the Jeeps that are covered in machine guns, by the way, driving them straight down the center of the airfield and shooting absolutely everything else that wasn't blown up.
Will you stop shooting everything?
Then driving right out the other end of the airfield and disappearing into the night.
Yo, they really did that. They really did that. They really did drive by on planes. The fuck are you talking about? Them boys did drive by on planes.
Shooting everything.
Then driving right out the other end of the airfield and disappearing into the night. Literally doing drive-bys with Jeeps, but instead of a sideways Glock out of a window, it was twin Vickers machine guns. And this new tactic worked incredibly. On a good night, they were able to destroy between 30 and 40 German airplanes. Between 1941 and 1943, they conducted dozens of raids on over 30 German airfields, destroying up to 400 enemy aircraft during that time period, and the Germans...
Drive-bys were a part of war. I'm thinking the first drive-by in the hood. That shit in Germany somewhere.
Airfields, destroying up to 400 enemy aircraft during that time period, and the Germans started calling Major Sterling the Ghost Major.
Like Baba Yaga.
This crippled the German logistics and helped lead to the fall of North Africa. And that is just one of many of the incredible contributions that the Jeep made to World War II. So what is the Jeep? Well, in 1939, the American government looked at what was going on over in Europe and kind of figured that there's a war probably on its way. We should start getting ready. One of the most important things they identified that they needed was a light all-terrain vehicle that they could use for scouting operations and general moving soldiers around the battlefield. In World War I, militaries still relied heavily on horses, Model Ts, and motorcycles, and for scouting operations, moving into enemy territory, a Model T just wasn't that good to go off-roading in, neither was a motorcycle, and horses were a humongous logistical strain because when you dismount, you got to leave somebody with the horses, you got to have a bunch of hay for them, the horses can get sick, it was just a nightmare. So basically they wanted a small light vehicle that could go anywhere and do anything. At this point in time,
not for reckless though. All right now, not for reckless.
was just a nightmare. So basically they wanted a small light vehicle that could go anywhere and do anything. At this point in time, nothing like this had ever been really created or at least mass produced at scale, so they contacted 185 different companies to see if they would be interested in making a prototype, and only 3 responded: American Bantam, Willys Overland, and Ford. And the crazy part is the American government didn't just want these companies to build a new vehicle that the world had never seen from the ground up, they wanted a functioning prototype in 49 days.
You're going to say it's impossible, and then you're going to do the math in your head and say
Something like the overtime alone will be a nightmare.
The overtime alone will be a nightmare.
Get started.
Which is absolutely crazy to not only design, but manufacture a functioning prototype in 49 days, yet one of the 3 companies manages to do it, American Bantam. They create the BRC, the Bantam Reconnaissance Car. It gets delivered 30 minutes before the deadline, goes into testing, and the Army testers said it was one of the best vehicles they had ever tested and vastly exceeded any expectations they had. So naturally, American Bantam gets the contract, and that's who manufactures Jeep today. No, I'm just kidding. Apparently, the contract was to develop a functioning prototype, meaning the Army now owns that prototype and they can do whatever the fuck they want with it. And American Bantam was a small company that wasn't going to be able to mass produce at scale, so they actually take the plans for the Bantam car and give it to Ford and Willys as well, and all 3 of them start manufacturing this new vehicle. And naturally, because Ford and Willys were much bigger companies than American Bantam, they ended up producing way more, and Bantam kind of ended up producing the trailers more so than the Jeeps themselves.
You're doing great. Yes, so good.
So yeah, American Bantam kind of got fucked. Anyways, so how did it go from the BRC to the Jeep? Well, at this point in time, the term Jeep wasn't actually the name of the vehicle. It was a slang term used in the military to describe a new recruit that was inexperienced or a new piece of equipment that was untested. So as this point in time, the term Jeep wasn't actually the name of the vehicle. It was a slang term used in the military to describe a new recruit that was inexperienced or a new piece of equipment that was untested. So
you lying, Nick. That's a nugget. That is an Easter egg that I feel like I need. You know, all these videos, I forget a lot of the stuff that I learn or that I take in on these videos, but there's little pieces of information that don't mean much that I hold on to. Like, I'm going to hold on to that Jeep slang forever now. You're telling me the word Jeep wasn't originally attached to a car? It was attached to us, a human who didn't know shit? Bro, that's crazy. That's something I don't think I'm going to forget. That's crazy.
Military to describe a new recruit that was inexperienced or a new piece of equipment that was untested. So as the soldiers started getting these new vehicles, they started referring to them as Jeeps because it was the new untested vehicle. And around the same time, the Popeye comic and TV show had a new character introduced known as Eugene the Jeep, just by pure coincidence. And Eugene the Jeep was this mythical dog-like creature that could walk through walls, he could find anyone, basically he could go anywhere and do anything. So when magazines and newspapers started doing articles about this new vehicle that the troops were referring to as the Jeep, which really just meant the new untested thing, people back home were reading these magazines and newspapers and immediately associating it with this mythical dog that could go anywhere and do anything. It was a catchy and good nickname, and from that point on, the term Jeep became synonymous with what we know today as the Jeep.
Wow.
Now, as America and the Jeep entered World War II, according to legend, the first time a Jeep was commandeered by the Germans, they showed it to a German general, and the generals and other officers were laughing at it. They couldn't believe that the great American military was fielding such a small, feeble, unarmored piece of equipment. What they didn't realize was this was not for frontline combat. This was for logistical support. This was for moving communications wire. This was for transporting troops, transporting the wounded, towing artillery, being able to move everything on the back end, and they didn't know that America was about to produce 650,000 of them over the course of World War II. That's almost 15,000 Jeeps being made every single month. That's almost 500 Jeeps a day. That's like 20 Jeeps an hour every fucking hour for all of World War II. And what most people don't realize about the Germans in World War II is they still relied heavily on horses for their logistics. During World War II, at its peak, the German military was using 2.7 million horses to transport troops and supplies. The common zeitgeist and like conventional knowledge out there in the world is that, oh, the Germans, all their technology was better. America was just so much bigger, they couldn't help it. And there's some truth to that. Like, yeah, a German tank might have been better than a Sherman tank, and German trucks might have been better than the American Jeep, but the cost of being better meant that they were only able to produce a very small few. So would you rather have, I don't know, 2.7 million horses feeding your logistics, or would you rather have 650,000 Jeeps Jeeps with machine guns being driven by pissed off 18-year-old farm kids. I'm taking the second one. And that's just the on-paper stuff. You gotta realize the grunts that are driving these things are masters of innovation when it comes to killing people. I mean, how good is your tank gonna be when I've got 600,000 dudes doing drive-bys out of the side of Jeeps with bazookas? I'm not kidding. Recon guys used to do that shit all the time back in World War II, and that's just assuming they're in a hurry. If they've got time and creativity on their side, back in Italy, there were guys making quad-mounted bazooka turrets for the back of their Jeeps. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, this is like one of the most important innovations of World War II, and that's not just my opinion, that's General Eisenhower's opinion, and it's also probably the most underrated innovation of World War II. Whether it was intentional or not, it was absolutely genius. The idea of just giving the grunts a blank canvas that is an unstoppable four-wheel drive vehicle that's cheap and expendable and saying, here, go get the bad guy, and letting them do death arts and crafts projects on top of it. They didn't hamper the creativity, they enabled it. Okay, the Geneva Convention's gonna be sitting off in the corner with a blank piece of paper and a clipboard like, holy shit, that's not illegal yet, but it's gonna be soon. Because I've said it once and I'll say it again, it's never a war crime the first time. Available at thefatelectrician.com.
Good plug. How dare you?
I mean, it's only going to get worse, too. I mean, after World War II, we literally had the Davy Crockett where they stuck a recoilless rifle, basically a big bazooka for all intents and purposes, and then mounted an atomic bomb to the end of it. So yeah, the big takeaway from the Jeep is make it mass producible, make it fast, make it cheap, make it four-wheel drive, and make it a blank canvas so the grunts can get creative with it. So the Jeep goes on to serve for like 5 decades after World War II, and then...
Wait, is that Humvee? That is Humvee.
So the Jeep goes on to serve for like 5 decades after World War II, and then by the 1990s, it was time to upgrade it. So they come out with the Humvee, the high mobility multi-purpose vehicle, and basically the strategy was we're gonna make the Jeep 2.0. It's gonna be bigger, it's gonna have more horsepower, it's gonna be the Jeep, but better. And for the most part, they did a pretty good job. That's exactly what the Humvee was. It was just a light vehicle you could use for recon, it could tow stuff, it could transport stuff, it was pretty good off-road. It was great. The only downside is that it wasn't as mass producible. They didn't have multiple companies all being able to make the same vehicle. They were all built by a company named AM General out of Indiana. It worked pretty good in the Gulf War, and then it worked pretty good at the very beginning of the global war on terror, but as the global war on terror devolved from more of a Iraq versus America, where there's, you know, uniformed soldiers versus uniformed soldiers, there's a front line established, and it turned into an insurgency where there are no lines and the enemy's just everywhere and pops up randomly, it became not so good. The Jeep and the Humvee are not armored vehicles. They were meant to transport troops to the front line. They were meant to go out on reconnaissance missions. They were not designed to patrol an area prone to guerrilla warfare and IEDs. So the grunts took their blank canvas, the Humvee, and they adapted to the situation. They started welding iron plating on the side. They started finding bulletproof glass. They started making them armored vehicles to the best of their ability. And over time, the government saw what they were doing, so they just started doing it, but better. They came out with the up-armored Humvee. They turned the Humvee into a monstrosity that it was never built or intended to be. They added a bunch of armor that made it significantly heavier, meaning that the engine was now underpowered, the suspension was underrated, reducing its off-road capability. The bulletproof glass windows were smaller with thick glass, making it hard to see out of.
I can't see fucking shit out of this thing.
The added weight in the undersized engine also meant that it was slower, it couldn't go as far on a single tank of fuel, and it was harder to transport. You can't airlift in multiple Humvees as fast when they weigh 5,000 pounds more each. Then as time went on, they came out with other vehicles that were actually designed to handle this type of combat. They came out with the MRAP, and then they came out with the JLTV, which is essentially an up-armored Humvee that was designed to be an up-armored Humvee. It has an engine appropriate size, a suspension that's the appropriate size. It was actually built to do what that does. Which brings us to today. Okay, just to recap, the military needs mobility. First, the military had horses, the horses turned into Model Ts, the Model Ts turned into Jeeps, the Jeeps turned into Humvees, and then the Humvees got bastardized and turned into a wannabe tank, so now the Army needs a new Jeep. Cue the Army's new program, the ISV, the Infantry Squad Vehicle, basically a Mad Max-style dune buggy. And as I said earlier, originally I had my doubts on this vehicle, but after going out to Fort Campbell and getting hands-on experience with this thing and researching into the historical context of what this vehicle is actually supposed to be and do, this thing is fucking awesome. And just so we're all on the same page, the ISV is not replacing the up-armored Humvee. It's not replacing the MRAP. It's not replacing the JLTV. All of those are staying in the capacity that they're in. This is not going to be the primary vehicle for mechanized infantry. This vehicle is truly the Jeep 2.0. It is a logistical asset to move stuff.
I was about to say, because there's no armor, there's no doors, like they're just saying, okay, we just gonna make the Jeep again a little bigger. You could fit a few more soldiers and a lot more equipment, and we can get it done.
This vehicle is truly the Jeep 2.0. It is a logistical asset to move stuff and to move people. To move people, we've got the ISV, the infantry squad vehicle that can seat 9 guys, aka an entire rifle squad. To move stuff, we have the infantry utility vehicle, which can seat 4 guys and has a fucking truck bed. And when it is used in missions on the battlefield, it's not going to be used instead of an up-armored Humvee. It's going to be used instead of walking. Missions where the scope of the mission is to insert guys via helicopter, then they have to walk 10 to 15 miles to the objective and then get eyes on the target. Instead of that, now they're going to insert these guys with a helicopter. 2 ISVs fit inside of a fucking Chinook. They're going to drive dune buggies out the back of the helicopter, drive 8 miles to the objective, throw a camo net over the ISV, and then walk the last 2 miles. I can't stress to you enough what an advantage this is over walking, because now they're going to be able to bring in more shit. They're going to have more ammo, more food, more water, more medical supplies, all readily available because they don't have to walk 15 miles with it strapped to their back. They're going to be better rested because they get to sleep in longer because they don't have to walk 15 miles. They get to drive 80% of the way there. And once they get to the objective, they're not going to be dog-ass tired again because they didn't have to walk 15 miles with 85 pounds of shit on their back. Buh! I'd still rather have an armored vehicle. Buh! Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. That wasn't an option. The question was not, do you want to drive an up-armored Humvee or a fucking dune buggy? The question was, do you want to fucking walk 15 miles and carry all the shit on your back? Or do you want to drive the Warthog from Halo 3?
Warthogs, baby.
You're not getting an up-armored Humvee on a fucking recon mission, okay? A, they don't fit inside of a Chinook, so you'd have to sling load it. And even then, you can only sling load 1, and then it only seats 4 fucking guys, and a rifle squad has 9 dudes.
Oh, yes! Yes! Yeah!
As opposed to the ISV that you can fit 2 of inside of a Chinook, and each one of them seats 9 guys. You can bring 17 other motherfuckers with you inside of the Mad Max dune buggy. Okay, don't get me wrong, I understand the logic. We had the original Humvee, and then we had to up-armor it and turn it into a wannabe tank, so why are we going back to an original Humvee? Okay, you can't fall into the fallacy of preparing for the last war. It never works. France in World War II, they prepared for the last war. France wasn't defenseless. They weren't not ready for the Germans. They had all their troops evenly lined up along the entire French border, ready to fight a World War I style battle because they prepared for the last war. Germany rolled up with tanks and the Blitzkrieg punched right through their line and then went straight into their capitals and took over the entire country. You can never prepare for the last war because war changes so fast. Imagine telling an Iraq or an Afghanistan veteran, oh hey, in 10 years, Russia and Ukraine are gonna be in a war and they're gonna have these things called drones. Long story short, the IEDs, they're gonna fly.
I'm sorry. You said they're in the air now. You're kidding, right? Because it was already impossible to find them when they were in the ground. They were in the ground. Everyone says to look for trash. Spoiler alert, the whole country's full of trash. It's bad. Like, you couldn't find anything. And it was hidden. It was like, look for it. It was impossible to find. Now they're airborne. That's got to be a new nightmare that I don't want to understand. And on top of that, there's only one thing that can make this worse. One thing. If we put them on top of sharks with laser beams on their heads, that way they can have land, sea, and air. I mean, it's too much, really.
Right.
Everything changes in war at a rapid pace. The only thing you can do to prepare for it is prepare to have solid fundamentals. And those fundamentals are the core of what made the Jeep great. You need to be able to move troops and supplies fast, efficiently, and with a mass-produced option. And in that regard, the ISV is fucking perfect. I keep calling the ISV a dune buggy because that's what it looks like, but in reality, it's a Chevy Colorado with a different setup on top. Meaning that unlike the Humvee and more so like the Jeep, it's a mass-produced vehicle and parts are gonna be easy to come by. The engine, the transmission, the suspension, everything. It's all Chevy Colorado parts. You can literally go to O'Reilly's or AutoZone in your town right now and buy ISV parts. And not only is this thing mass producible, but it crushes the Humvee in every other category that you could possibly care about. Are they faster? Absolutely. They're way fucking faster than a Humvee, okay? I've driven soft Humvees, I've driven up-armored Humvees, I've driven ambulance Humvees. Humvees don't have an accelerator. They have a pedal on the floor that makes more fucking noise. Those things struggle to hit 55 going downhill on a paved road. And even when you do hit 55, it feels like you're re-entering the Earth's fucking atmosphere. The ISV, on the other hand, hand, is going 85 miles an hour down a dirt road. And it's way better at off-roading. I've done the off-roading Army course, both in the Humvee and the ISV, and the ISV fucking crushes it. I mean, I rode in the ISV for the off-road course. I didn't drive. And at no point during my trip to Fort Campbell did the NCO in charge tell me to turn the cameras off and then let me drive. That did not happen.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Now, Nick and Bill, let me tell y'all something. I'm going to tell you, Nick, listen. I'm going to tell you something my wise younger brother always says to me. He says, Nolo, a lie don't care who tell it, and a fart don't care who smell it. God! Why you lying, Nick? Why you lying? Then you gonna have Bill lie right to our face. God. Bill know he know he received that fellatio from that woman. He know that. Nick, you know you drove that damn truck. You knew that. You know it.
NCO in charge tell me to turn the cameras off and then let me drive. That did not happen.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Buh! It doesn't have any windows or doors. Imagine how cold it'd be in the winter. Buh! Okay, this isn't sinking in for some of you. I'll say it slower. Motherfucker, the options are, do you want to walk 15 miles in the snow in winter? Or do you want to take the Warthog from Halo 3? Those are the fucking options. Anybody with a brain is taking the Warthog. And it doesn't have a full front windshield for multiple reasons. One, you're not going to have glare if you're using night vision at night. Two, you're not going to have mud and shit getting flung up on the window waiting for the windshield wipers to work. And three, so you can shoot out the fucking front. Every car chase action movie ever, first thing that happens, window gets shattered, good guy has to push the window out of the car to be able to return fire or to see to drive. We're just going to eliminate that situation right out of the gate. Now, fair criticism, why the fuck isn't there a turret on the top? And to be fair, I agree that would look dope as shit. However, then it wouldn't fit as well inside of the helicopters, so they compromised and they put swivel mounts on either side so that the gunners for the 240 and the SAW can mount their machine guns out the side. Which made me ask the 101st Airborne one simple question.
I don't know if it's changed your training at all. Like, you know, in a Humvee, you pull up.
Is there a drive-by course?
Oh, God damn it.
Now, on the record, I kind of received no comment to that question, but could you imagine how awesome that would be, having an expert marksmanship badge for drive-bys?
So you're telling me there's a chance?
So just so we're all on the same page up until this point, it's mass producible.
Who finds a Dumb and Dumber clip? How?
It's faster, it carries more people, you can fit more of them on a helicopter, and it's better at off-roading. And the sixth bullet point, holy shit, is it significantly quieter than a Humvee. Like, you can stand next to the ISV and have a normal conversation at a normal talking voice and completely hear each other. A Humvee you can hear from 150 fucking yards away. So you can already hear it from here. It's louder from here than that is standing next to it, but I guess we'll just walk closer. You can hear how fucking loud.
That's insane.
So, significantly louder.
If you hear that, democracy's on its way.
The Humvee is rocking a 190 horsepower V8, and the ISV is rocking a 186 horsepower 4-cylinder turbo diesel Duramax.
So much torque. The chassis twisted coming off the line.
Now, I asked about miles per gallon on the Humvee versus the ISV. I was told that the ISV is significantly better. However, giving me the official stat on what the gas mileage is was classified information, because then, you know, the enemy could make plans around, you know, how far the ISV can travel, blah, 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 blah. Translation, the military doesn't have to abide by EPA emissions regulations, and they don't want you to know that this thing probably gets like 70 miles to the gallon. I was also told by several GM technicians, aka mechanics, that not having all the EPA emissions bullshit inside of this vehicle makes the engine way more reliable. And the best part, it's cheaper. A brand new Humvee, a soft shell Humvee, not an up-armored Humvee, a soft Humvee, the direct comparison to what this vehicle is supposed to be is $233,000 brand new. This thing is $153,000. Don't get me wrong, 153 grand's a shit ton of money, but when we're talking about DOD money, it's fucking pocket change. It's literally nothing. A single Javelin missile is like $200,000, and you're getting this dune buggy for $150,000.
You mean our money, Nick. But carry on, I digress.
Nothing. A single Javelin missile is like $200,000 and you're getting this dune buggy for $153. It's not a deal, but it's the best thing the United States military is going to get. So in conclusion, despite my initial reservations about the ISV, I now realize that those reservations were based off of the fallacy of preparing for the last war and not looking at the historical precedent. And that precedent is that the United States military, and probably every other military on the planet, is always going to need a mass-produced, cheap, fast way to transport troops and equipment around the battlefield, and in that regard, the ISV is absolutely perfect and a humongous upgrade over the Humvee. Don't forget to go check out pepperbox.tv, where you can see the entire episode of me, habitual line crosser and veteran with a sign, going out to Fort Campbell. Pepperbox is actually my streaming service. I'm one of the owners. Me and some of my other YouTube buddies got together. We created this platform. There's an app on your phone. You can get it on your smart TV. You can watch me and like 20 other big YouTube creators' content there. It's all ad-free and uncensored. And there's a ton of other exclusive content on there as well. Thanks for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
Fuck.
I can't wait till these things hit the surplus market in like 10 years because I'm buying like 5 of them.
My boy Nick caked up. That boy got paid. That boy touching paper, man. These boy touching real paper out here, man. Hold on, let me make sure I ain't.
Man, we definitely didn't drive it.
I fucked up one video. I got let me watch.
Man, we definitely didn't drive it, but if we did, I bet Ethan's the kind of guy that would complain about the throttle and then realize he left the parking brake on the whole fucking time.
That would be so embarrassing if that happened.
That would be super embarrassing if that happened, which it didn't because we're not allowed to drive.
I mean, this is the thing. If that were to happen, my excuse would be that I'm the missile guy, not the truck guy, okay?
Yeah.
So why you drive?
You get to the missiles, fuckhead.
LMTVs, not that.
A truck?
All right, fuck you.
All right, man. I like that one. Y'all like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll catch y'all on the next one, y'all. Peace.